Hello and welcome to this week's episode of My CP Does Not Define Me, where we focus less on the dis and more on the ability of what we can do. Join us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, live on the Disability Global Broadcast and Facebook Live. Looking forward to seeing you there.
Hello again. Yes, it is Wednesday as April continues to flow right through, and it's 2 p.m. and time for another exciting episode 93, as a matter of fact, of My CP Does Not Define Me. I'm a poet and didn't know it. There we go. So I hope everybody is doing well today. We are live on StreamYard. We are live on the Disability Global Broadcast, and we are live on Facebook. I'm D to the J with the roll away, your host, and I have a very interesting friend, colleague. I've guessed. I've known her for a long time, and I've actually really wanted to get her on my show for a long time. Just a little bit of background on Miss Pam. I'll let her introduce herself in a second. I have met a lot of writers in my time. Not met a lot of people that could tell a good story. But when I met Miss Pam, it was different because her ability to engage in the positive was, we were just talking about that off the air. There's so much negative going on in the world right now, and it's just negative everywhere. She is able to see the light in any situation, like another friend of mine that I know. Hey, Josh, thanks for tuning into the show. Welcome. But to say too much, I want to let her introduce herself. I want to let her tell a little bit about herself and what she'd like to share. Miss Pam, welcome to the show. For those of us that do not know you, would you please just share what you're comfortable with about yourself and who you are and all that good stuff, and we'll go from there.
All righty. My name is Pamela Nichols. I live here in Portsmouth, not too far from DJ. For years, I was a columnist, a writer with the Virginian Pilot, which is actually how I met DJ, and we'll talk about that later. I have continued writing. I'm no longer with the Pilot. I am an author of a Christian fiction series now, and I actually help new writers, and I actually help people overcome some of the wrong mindsets they have about church and God and religious life. Aside from writing, I enjoy decorating. I enjoy fitness. I enjoy nature. And I'm just enjoying this season of my life right now. And I'm really glad to be here. I'm glad our schedules finally hooked up, DJ.
As busy as she was when she was with the Pilot, I said, man, I don't know if we're ever going to get a chance to, because when she was doing something or when she was free, I was doing something and trying to.
Exactly.
Let's get into, let's go back a little bit. Writing is your forte, and I know you're doing the new fiction series right now with everything. How did you decide what made you decide as you were growing up to get into writing? What was it about it that intrigued you? And how did you get into that?
Oh my gosh, that's such a long story. I didn't know when I was younger that I would write. I liked words and I liked reading. I did not have a white picket fence childhood. It was not good at all. Mm-hmm. But books were always my solace. And I did not realize this until very recently, maybe like 3 years ago. I happened to be in a used bookstore and I saw this children's book. And I said, oh my gosh, that looks familiar. And I picked it up and I realized this was a book I'd read years ago as a child. And it was, and so then the memories came back that in spite of all the darkness in my childhood, I had read some major quality children's fiction, and that stayed with me. And then what happened was I had a conversation with a friend, and that led me to writing my first book. So when you asked me what made me decide to write, I really don't think it was a decision of mine. I think that was already pre-built in me, and I didn't even realize. It's not like I can look back as a child and say I wanted to become a writer. I actually am sitting here now and looking back and saying, oh my gosh, I was a writer all along.
It was programmed in. It was that's
It's my factory setting.
and I want to ask you, the books that you read, in the childhood that you said that was a very tough childhood. Did they take you on those magical journeys that you wanted to get to, those magical castles? Was that the get away from everything and be where you wanted to be instead of what was going on, whether it was bad or how rough it was?
When people say that books transport you, they literally do. I remember reading Nancy Drew and Mike Mulligan and Anne of Green Gables, which remains my favorite story of all time. I remember that. I remember reading dictionaries. I can picture myself sitting alone in I don't know if we call it the den, but it was the living room of our house. I can see myself sitting in a corner, and we had Encyclopedia Britannicas, and I was just flipping through, reading. And it really was my solace. It really was my strength. And to this day, I cannot explain the magic that words have on me, the magic that words hold over me. Yes.
So was reading Rainbow an influence for you back in that time?
I actually predate reading Rainbow, but I do like when I hear the butterfly in the sky part. I was homeschooling at the time when that came out, and yes.
I chose to interview you because of this right here. You're talking about something again. There's always dark areas in life, but it takes a little bit of light to outshine darkness. And no matter how dark the problem may be or the situation may be, once you find the good or the peace or the light in the situation, it transforms it. And you have something that no one can take away from you, which is honor and respect, because you worry about things that you can control. Now, when I was growing up, I can't say I did that because I wanted to be part of everything and everybody, and I wanted to know why I was the way I was and why I couldn't be like it. It took me a while to find myself. In essence, it may have been the same for you, but you had that outlet of reading to take you on those magical journeys. As you were growing up and once you started finding yourself, what was your support system like?
Well, let me back up just a little bit, because this revelation I'm speaking about now is fairly recent, maybe in the last 10 years.
Really?
And right. So until then, what happened was I would feel a little spark of light, because again, I believe that is my factory setting. But I would squirrel. I would go focus on the negative. And there was so much negative around me. And it seemed like the negative was prevailing. So, and I did have anxiety. I've suffered from depression. And so sometimes it felt easier to focus on the dark. Sometimes I still have a struggle. Sometimes I have to make myself, but I do understand the making myself. Back to what you said about the positivity. I had a conversation with a very good friend this morning. There is a quote by the philosopher Albert Camus. It's one of my favorite quotes, that said, "In the midst of a winter, I found within myself an invincible summer."
Oh,
that changed it for me. No matter, because I felt a lot of shame about some of the things that happened to me. I felt a lot of shame about the way I grew up. I felt about a shame, and because of the things that happened to me and the way I grew up, there was a lot of lack in my life, emotional and spiritual, and I don't know so much physical, but certainly psychological. And that brought on shame. I compared myself to other people.
Right.
And I don't do that anymore. I did the best that I could do. I have hit rock bottom emotionally. And and this is the conversation I had with a friend of mine. I feel unshakable now. I know that I can craft my life. I know that I have that power. I know that no matter what winter is going on within me and around me, I have an invincible summer within me.
Yep.
And
You know,
we have to focus on that.
Talking about that, just being able to have that vision and to keep that mind focused on, regardless of like the winter, like you're talking about, there's going to be bad that happens.
Right.
But knowing that you can overcome that, and you've done pretty doggone well for yourself. I mean, I you know, just to perseverance is a good word, because that's to being, we all get knocked down, but you know, you were talking about rock bottom. I had a conversation with one of my mentors. Once you hit rock bottom, you know you've hit it, and it may take a while for it to sink in. But what I've realized and what I understand now is, once you hit rock bottom, there's nowhere to go but up.
You're either going to stay there or you're going to go up.
And in that, see, we and I think, and I was going to ask you this question. You know, when you were growing up and you saw some of those negative things that you saw, whatever they were, do you feel, or do you think, do you think that society was part of that?
You know what? Let me just say this. Two things, actually. When I saw it growing up as a young child, I saw it so much and so thoroughly, I thought it was normal. So it's not like I was comparing it. And then as a young child, it just took so much emotional and psychological energy to deal with what was going on in the four walls of my house. I could not even think about what was going on outside of my house. I will say this, and I am dating myself here.
That's all right.
The year of segregation, school desegregation here in Portsmouth happened my first grade. I went to James Hurst Elementary, first grade. But in preschool, the year before that, everybody in my preschool looked like me. So the next year, without any warning from my parents or preparation, which kind of lets you know what was going on, and some of the stuff was going on in our house, I was placed in an integrated society. Which before then, the most I saw people that didn't look like me was on television.
Right.
So I'm telling you, I immediately felt the difference. So to have that heaped on top of the stuff that was already going on inside of my house, it was something.
What was it? Was it more isolation than you were already feeling because of it?
It was more isolation than I was already feeling. I'm not going to say that as a 6-year-old, I knew what prejudice felt like as a 5-year-old. But when I got to first grade, it was clear to me. It was made clear to me that I was different. And I felt that as a 6-year-old. And it was so bewildering. I just don't have words for it. It was bewildering, on top of everything else. And I just added that to the whole list of stuff that I already felt was wrong with me. Now, even then, that was like this, but everything else was like this.
Right. But I want to go back to something that you said. It became normal. See, and you notice Pam's gonna shoot from the hip. And then that's what I like. She's very real, straight off the holster. That's how we roll. It just, because you have to think about it. The word normal, and we're talking about this. We've talked about this on the show before. Everybody has to find their normal. There's no you are normal. There's no, see, I don't see people as different. But I was raised, you know, as, you know, I love everybody until you step on my toes. When you step on my toes, I'm coming after you. That, you know, that's the difference. But I can say I was never there because I wasn't. I don't know. Pam was. She experienced it. And to have somebody that experienced it that can tell the story of how she felt in her 6-year-old shoes.
Mm-hmm.
That's
It's,
rough on
it's
on a 6-year-old at least.
on a
But
6-year-old.
and then to grow with that and to have it, I don't know if fester is the right word. I guess that would be as close as I could think.
Mm-hmm.
How long did you carry that before you realized? I mean, heck, are you still carrying it? Is it
Now, are we talking about
having
the
to deal with?
racism, or are we talking about just
Yeah,
feeling different in general?
well, both, because I mean, you realized, that you were treated different. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
how as you grew up, how is it? I know. I don't. Are you still carrying it, or?
No, I'm not still carrying it now. I'm aware of it when it happens.
Mhm.
I see it clearly when it happens. Um, but again, it became normal. And I will say this, that listening to the talk of the older people around me, figures around me who should have been able to mold me and prepare me. Like I said, I was not prepared. I still have the memory, because this was even before we were bused there. I still have the memory of crying, getting on the school bus,
Mhm.
and being told to stop crying and get on the bus, as opposed to preparing your child for something.
Yeah, yeah, and having if had you been prepared for it, you would have been more ready.
Yes, I think.
I mean, but even
As ready as you can
yeah,
be.
I was going to say even to be ready for something like that
Yeah.
is a shock. Tiffany commented here. Yes, I was 7 and 8 when I experienced that in my face as well. I you know
You
I
remember the first, you remember, and Tiffany, you remember the first time, because it hits you out of the blue. You don't expect that. And I was 6 years old, and the funny part, I still remember the girl's name. Her name was Kathy with the K.
mm,
And she made a comment. Our teacher addressed it, and then the teacher left, and she doubled down on her comment. 6 years old.
I the one thing I can't stand is in this world is racism. I've always hated it, and I can remember the first time it happened to me. I was 8 years old, and somebody came up to me and said, "Oh, you have it easy because you're in a wheelchair and you're white."
Mm.
And they were the same color as me. And my mom was sitting there. My mom's mouth dropped, and I was 8 years old. And I remember looking at them. I remember the first thing I said, "I may be white, but when I cut myself, you and I both bleed the same color."
Mm-hmm.
And they looked at me like, "How did an 8-year-old pull that?" Like, I
Right,
mean, just
right.
I know that racism happens, and I just that stuff's got to stop because
It is.
that's the only way that we're going to grow as a society is to realize that we're not so different.
Exactly.
That we have differences, but it's not stop. Don't face value everything. There's more to it than look. We all breathe. We all have one of these. We all have one of these, and we have a soul. So, what
Mhm.
makes us so different, other than the color of our skin? I mean, it's not. I
And my faith plays a big part of my life, and I just have to think that we were made this way for a reason. There's not a mistake there.
Mhm.
So let's just lean into that and not try to one up other people.
Sure, and I think, and notice you said faith, not hope. I love that you use faith instead of the word hope because I told somebody the other day. I said you got to be careful with faith and hope because hope is a beggar. Hope begs. I hope I get that job. I hope I get that car. I hope you do okay. Faith is a belief in itself to say you are going to be fine. You are going to get the job. You are going. It is you are showing a statement of this is going to happen. And walking in that faith or rolling in that faith is where You put forth the effort to make things happen. I wish Miss Edwina Wilson was on this show right now. My boss lady mama, she's my internet mama, and I that lady.
Look at you being all deep, DJ.
Look,
this is what I remember. This is what I remember.
This show gonna go with it, girl. We got an hour. I have learned when somebody has a story, and see, I've always known ever since the first time you interviewed me, there was more to you. And I said, this girl gonna get it here when I interview her. And I didn't mean that in a bad way, because your interviews were thoughtful. Your interviews, the questions you ask, I'm like, where else ask me that? I gotta think. Like,
exactly.
You made me think, and I can remember. We met. I believe we met. I was on YouTube with my cooking show at the time.
Yes.
Cooking with Carla.
Yeah, cooking and food is another one of my hobbies, and I didn't mention it earlier. And I was on YouTube, and I just kept kicking links, and then some kind of way I came to your page, and that was very intriguing. And I can't remember, something on your page let me know that we were neighbors. I mean, at least in the same city. And I remember contacting you, and then coming to your apartment.
I was so excited. Oh man. The days before, I'm like, what am I going to say? What is she going to ask me? What am I going to do? Like, I felt like I was preparing for a test I ain't studied for. I'm like, I know all the answers to every question. Like, and then
I'm not going to ask you anything you don't know.
But see, you know what I realized? When somebody asks you something you don't know, you can always find the answer.
Oh yeah.
And being okay with not knowing everything. What I don't like is for somebody to talk on something for 20 minutes they don't know nothing about.
And you ain't said nothing. And
I'm like, can we get to the point of where you actually know about it? That's why when you said faith instead of hope, I saw your face, you were like, wait a minute. You're talking about something real here. Hold on.
Exactly.
When it grabs you, see, that's how you write. You don't just write words on a page. You say, come here. And it's like, you got to realize where you are in the moment. And life is full of little moments, little tiny little moments. Moment. And some people, they live in the moment. And that's okay. That's okay. But if you live in the moment and you're waiting for the next one to see what happens, you miss the moment that you're in. See, that's.
I think a lot of people also make the mistake of thinking that life is made up of these big explosions, these big things, but it really is the day by day habits, your day by day that makes up your life. It really is.
I wasn't going to say this on the show, but I'm going to because I'm that.
Because you're DJ. Please be gentle, DJ.
I will.
Okay, my friends are gonna watch this. Okay,
no, we ain't gonna go there. Trust me. Every day our feet hit the floor and our eyes open, sometimes in reverse order. Okay, but we're given a chance every day to make a difference. Now, and you'll remember this, whether we take that chance is our own responsibility. See, a lot of people don't take responsibility for their own actions. I want to read this from Tiffany right here. Going to and from Indianapolis, Indiana, and my mom was married to a black man. He failed to tell his family that we were white. And going where we had to be
and treated
being white. I can laugh at it now, but it's absolutely sickening. Look, I'm gonna tell you what, and I'm gonna go ahead and say it. When I was in middle school, I dated a black lady, African American woman, and she was one of the sweetest, nicest ladies. I ever met.
You were in middle school. She was in middle school too, right?
Yeah. I ain't started dating that high up yet.
Hey, I was like, wait a minute, where are we going with this story? I'm a mandatory reporter, so you need to. I'm like, wait.
She had the pen and everything. She ready to go.
Carry on with your story, sir.
So, but you would have thought I walked down the hallway proud, just holding a hand and head up high, and people were looking at me. And I remember the first person that looked at her. He looked. I was in 7th grade. He looked at me and he said, "You realize she's black, right?" I turned. I said, "I mean, no. I thought I was."
Like, when did that happen?
I said, "Shoot, thanks for letting me know." And we walked right on past. Like, it is sad the way some people think, how small-minded they can be when the mind is such a powerful thing. And if you can just look at the purity of a person and what makes them do what they do and who they are. I don't care if you are purple with yellow polka dots with a horn sticking out your head. I may want to come over there and touch it and make sure it ain't gonna poke me and make me bleed or nothing like that. But I'm not gonna mess with you for it. I don't worry about how somebody looks. I usually dress up for the show. I usually wear my shirt and tie. I woke up late. I said, "Oh, I got to get this thing." I still had to use the restroom, still had to do all that. And I'm like, you know what? Let me just be me, because today is going to be one of them interviews where it's going to be raw and unfiltered and real. And I said, look, just come as you are. That's all God wants. Just come as you are. It's simple. It's such a simple thing to do, but so many people try to shadow it with makeup and fancy suits and this, that, and the other, big cars and big houses. But I'm going to tell you something. Can't hide who you are.
You can't.
Now, this lady,
some of the stuff you do to hide is actually showcasing your lack and what's going on. I wanted to say something about what you were just saying, because I didn't know this was going to go this way. But the racism is such a silly social construct, and it's called supremacy, but really it is inferiority. It is a certain sect or mindset who feels inferior for whatever reason, and this is how it plays out. It is not supremacy. It is inferiority.
It always has been. Now this lady here, this my home sister right here. Hello, wonderful people. So what's the topic today? I have a break from work and on a case from work. So I'm here for the good stuff. Okay, and your beautiful guest. His local, yes. Siobhan, I'm telling you, we hitting a little bit about racism today. We're hitting a little bit about writing. We're hitting a little bit about hope, faith. We're going all over the map today. And I'm gonna tell you, Miss Pam, she's a good friend of mine. Known each other a long time. So just to kind of break this down a little bit, Siobhan reminds me a lot of you because she don't play. She's straight to the point. I mean, she's a bodybuilder. She could clothesline Arnold Schwarzenegger. Not that she would do that. I'm just saying, look. She knows what she's doing, and just to kind of come as you are. You have to be comfortable in your own skin.
Yes.
Okay, and for some people, this is a rough show. For some people, this is a rough topic. For some people, I'm rough around the edges. But you know what? That's what sandpaper's for. Sometimes you got to smooth out what you're dealing with. And it's not you that's the problem. It's the topic. See, I mentioned faith before. And hope. I say this on a lot of my shows. I don't have to hope to be the man I am. because God gave me the faith to be the man I'm going to be. I don't have to be the hope. I don't have to hope to be the man I am when God gave me the faith to be the man I'm going to be.
Wow.
That's we can go deeper, but I'm going to leave it right there, because and the reason I say that is when you, after we met and you decided that you were going to interview me,
Mm-hmm.
you said something that sparked an image in my soul, and I will never ever forget it. Your very first interview with me, you said, I'm looking for positivity. I'm looking for something positive because I want to bring up the area. Because you were in all in the paper, negative, this, that,
yes,
this,
I
that.
remember that.
It was amazing, because I said, this lady here is on point.
For the people who who are not local here, we live in Hampton Roads, and I write for the Virginia Pilot, which was at the time the largest newspaper around here. And but Portsmouth, the city that DJ and I live in, we were always like the armpit of Hampton Roads. Like anytime that we were in the Virginian Pilot, it was always negative news. It was always negative news. But I happened to, because I enjoy history and I knew a lot of Portsmouth history, and we have amazing people here. We have amazing history in this city, but for some reason it just spiraled down. There was nothing written. I mean, you could have a story about Virginia Beach this and Chesapeake this and Norfolk this, and here's Portsmouth, and all these murders. And it was just always negative. And so I remember. And I wanted to say this because I don't know if I said this to you. I don't think I said it to you. Yes, I wanted something positive, but I did not want, what's the word I'm saying? I did not want to be placated. I did not want a story about a young man who had accepted his lot in life. I didn't say that to you, but that's what I was thinking. Because even when I met you, I wasn't sure that I was actually going to do the story if when I come there, all it was I've accepted my lot in life, if you know what I mean. When I connected with you, it was because of your cooking, and I actually wrote 2 stories on you, if you remember.
She said that. I didn't. She said that. I just let y'all know. Go ahead.
Okay. Was that a trigger or something?
No.
Okay.
I got 2.
I wrote 2 stories. And so yes, the cooking was one thing, but then I remembered talking to you, and then you were working on a belt in karate. And I was like, wait, what? Mm-hmm. And then we went, because we were in your living room, and then we went back to your bedroom.
And then I was getting married.
You were getting married?
And you're like, wait a minute, you're not accepting, you're succeeding.
Yeah,
you're going. I remember your face was like, you're not just sitting there accepting what you got. You're going above and beyond. I got to write about this. And that pen was just moving. She was.
And then after the interview was over, I put my stuff away, and we were just still sitting there talking. And we went into your bedroom. You were trying to show me something on the computer, because I don't do IT, and I'm like, okay, so this is amazing. This is, and yeah.
But see, you're different. I've been interviewed. I'm not trying to be male chauvinist or anything. I've been interviewed probably 30 or 40 times, easy. But your interview was. I want to say another word than more than raw. Yours was straightforward. It was the real. A lot of reporters they just want that cookie cake fluff. Mm-hmm. That what's going to make the city better. I just need. We've got to uplift it. It's got to be more. I'm sorry, my English accent's horrible. This is deplorable. I can't use that. You dig for the answers that you get.
Well, let me tell you this. Probably this is why, because 2 reasons actually. I had it, and I don't know if you remember this because you're young, but the Virginia Pilot was actually the afternoon paper. We had two. We had the Ledger Star in the morning and the Virginia Pilot in the afternoon. The paper came out twice a day. Or maybe I'm getting it backwards, but it came out twice. There was a morning edition and an evening edition.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting down. I remember connecting with my father over the news. And he was not an easy man to connect to. So right away, my love of words, because remember, my love of words is what got me through that childhood. And then news, because I watched the news and I read the newspaper even as a child, that connected me with my father, who was a man who was not easy to connect to. And then when I got the job with the Virginia Pilot, the newspaper that I read as a child, I started connecting with the people that I interviewed. And if you go on my Facebook page now, a lot of those people who are my Facebook friends and real friends, we connected because I wrote stories about them. And then it got to the point where people were actually contacting me to write stories, which I just found thrilling. So yes. So that all of that informed the way that I interviewed. If that makes any sense.
I remember when the first interview was over and I was like, man, that was fun. I didn't want her to leave, because when you get into, because I can go. That's one thing God gave me, the gift of gab. He may gave me a little too much, sitting up going, slow it down a little bit. Whoa, pull back. But I got to be honest. I said to myself, this is a person I want to return the favor. And you know what's so funny is I've done 93 episodes now. ICP Does Not Define Me. And I'm we've got about 30 minutes left in the show, and I want to get into the series that you're writing now, move forward a little bit. You have inspired so many people with your stories and how you write about them. But to go back, I still have the articles. I've had them. I have them filed away, framed, put away. And every once in a while, I've had them on my computer the whole entire time. And I realized I never sent them to you. I kind of kicking myself for that. But I have both of them, and I've read both of them over and over. And I remember we were trying to find the pictures. What pictures do I want to use? But talking about the black belt, going for that black belt in karate, and I've been in karate for over 12 years now because I just turned 40 this year, and it's like I remember how I felt. I thought the first interview was good, but the second one, it came out totally different but good, and it's like you. And this is why I kind of want to get into the series that you're writing now, bringing people to where they are. Everybody needs a little help once in a while, and that's okay. A lot of us are closed-minded. I don't need you to help me. I can figure it out myself. Don't tell me nothing. Can't tell me nothing. I got kids. I know. I mean, some people, they close themselves off because they know it all, and we can't tell them nothing. But you write about what you know, and that's where you get people's attention.
Well, let me say something about that. Some of that, that closing off, and you can't tell people anything. Some of that might be arrogance, but a lot of that, and I'm not a professional, but I would say the majority of that is fear. People have been hurt and they don't know how to be vulnerable, because that is something I'm still working out in my life. So it's fearful when you have been just hurt over and over and over again, and you're still working out your stuff. That is why I love social media so much. I mean, I know it's a lot of it is crazy, and I stay off that part.
Mm.
But I have been using my social media to grow myself, or to chronicle my growth. I actually put on my Facebook page not too long ago of a memory around a sexual assault that I'd had that I'm growing through. And I'm telling you, I was frightened to put it up there.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh my gosh, do I do this? But this is part of my growth. Part of that story, and I'm going to get just a little bit of it. There is a church in this city that this assault happened in. And I was a middle schooler at the time,
Mm-hmm.
very young. And into my 40s, when I became an adult, I moved from that side of Portsmouth, so I rarely was over on that side of town. But even as an adult, when I drove by that church, I would have a reaction in my body. Now, you can try to shut things out of your brain if you want to, but your body, there's a book called Your Body Keeps the Score. Your body knows it. And when I would drive by that church, I could still hear the click, the lock on that door sounded when that deacon was locking us in the building.
Mm-hmm.
So my body would have all kind of reactions when I drove by that. And I started a new job this year, last year. And
Mm-hmm.
it then dawned on me that I had been driving by that church twice a day for months, and I hadn't had a reaction.
Mm-hmm.
I'd come through that part of my healing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as frightened as I was to put that up there, what made me go on and share that is that I want to help people.
There it is.
I want people to know that if
That's
you grew up the way that I did, and on this surface, because this is what happens, we compare our stories to other people. Because I've had this conversation before where I would say things like, well, my upbringing wasn't that bad. I mean, it was bad, but there were other people who went through worse.
Mm.
Trauma is trauma. This much or that much, trauma is trauma. So I went on and shared that, and it was helpful for me, and it was helpful for other people, if that makes sense. Yeah.
That's the reason that I do this show right here. Now
Mhm.
I'm gonna you guys have heard me talk about this, when I came out with when I was molested. It
Mhm.
took me almost 20 years to say anything to my parents. And I actually had never said anything on the air, and I came out on a show, I guess, about 10 shows ago.
Mhm.
It's been about 10 shows ago now. And, I told what happened, and I did not realize how many people felt the way I felt,
Mhm.
experienced what I experienced.
Mhm.
Sounds, thoughts, looks, everything. And it really, but you said it right there. I was fighting to put this on social media. Do I or do I not? Now, every show that I have, there's a point where the show hits the ball square on the screws and the ball flies. She just took out the bat and she just hit it.
Hmm.
How many times do I say on this show, all the people that are here, I do this to help people. This
Mhm.
show is not about me. This show is about people sharing their stories and reaching somebody else. And you
Mhm.
just said, and I quote, I struggled with it. I struggled. Do I
Struggle.
do this or do I not? Do I do that? And I wanted to put it up there to help someone else. I
Mhm.
shared my story to help someone else. There's someone else sitting on a couch right now going, I went through that.
Right.
That happened to me.
Mhm.
That shouldn't have happened to me. I've
Exactly.
kept that in for 22 years.
Right.
You talking
Exactly.
about deep? You know how deep that is, right? When and you're right. Your body does keep the score.
Your
It
body.
is. You can block it out of here.
Mhm.
Can't block it out of there.
Can't block it out. And again, and part of that wanting to help other people was one thing, but then this is where my faith comes in. There's a scripture in Revelation that says, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of the testimony, the word of our testimony. So sometimes just saying it, just putting it out there, is so cathartic. And it really was. It really was.
What's the other one that says just, there's a verse that, I can't, he knows all that's written. He's written all that you said before you said it, but he still wants to hear it. That's it from you. It's the same. You got to be able to speak it. Because when you speak it, you give it power.
Right.
Words are powerful. And that's,
it goes back to my love of words again. It's the words.
And you, as you started the show, you said my love of words is what got me into reading dictionaries. And again, yeah, we're definitely gonna have you back for a part 2. This is because I really, what got you into writing? Because writing fiction is hard, especially when you're talking about something real. But writing fiction, that
you get it. Some people think that because fiction is false and it's made up, that is easy. Now, I spent more than 10 years writing nonfiction for the Virginian Pilot. That was different than writing fiction. And when you're writing fiction, you're building an entire world. You're building your characters. Your characters have to be believable. Your premise has to be believable. Your pacing has to be believable. The message that you want your audience to walk away with, it has to be salient. It has to be something that they want to hear or that they're able to hear. That takes work. When I write a story about a young man that I just met who has a cooking channel, yes, I have to put some skill into that, but the skill that you put into a story that you make up in your head, it does not even compare. It does not even compare. It does not. I love it, but I'm telling you, sometimes it's a struggle because I got to find the right word, and I can tell like this does not.
Well, because with fiction, you're creating it from scratch. See, with truth, there's already a basis there. You've done the interview. Now all you've got to do is take the peanut butter, take the jelly, put it on the sandwich and smush it together. And that it is. And you've got your lunch, cut it in a diagonal, make it look pretty, put it on a plate.
That's it. But with fiction, you don't start with peanut butter and bread. You start with flour.
And you've got to mix it and make it and add this.
You make the bread. Yes. Then you make the peanut butter. Then you beat the grapes down into jelly.
Stomp on it with your feet. Got to get in there.
It's everything. But I love it so much. I love it so much. Oh, I love it.
You have grown so much in just this hour of talking to you. I'm like, dang, man, this hour goes so fast. Like my guests are like, it's over already. Wait a minute, what? I love the fact that it took this long to get to you. Like, because God said, good things come to those who wait. If you just wait, because I was like, man, I wanted to get her back on episode 50, but
if
I had, it wouldn't have been this.
Would not have been this.
It would not have been.
That's my vision board back there, and I usually have a word per year. Like my word of the year for last year was timing, and I still got it up there. I have a different word this year. If you had me before today, this is not the conversation we would have had.
Right. We've touched on racism. We've touched on your writing. We've touched on your past, your future, where I was, where I am. I've cried a little bit, laughed a little bit. We talked about, there's a lot in this. And I say I wish Miss Wilson was up here because vision board. I did a vision board for the first time in my life. And she had us do one. I'm like, what the heck is this lady doing?
It's powerful because that's my writing desk.
But I'm going to tell you, when the vision board was complete, we started doing these little projects, right? And my favorite project she had us do for a month, we grabbed a box, and at the end of each day, we wrote something about that day that stuck out for a month. Well, I got to the end of the month. I said, I'm going to keep doing this. Then it was 2 months. Then it was 3 months. Then it was 6 months. Then it was a year.
Wow.
And you go back and you look at that year and the circle of life that you have within that year. You've got ups, downs, sideways, lows, highs, happies, sads, angers, all this stuff. See, but you can't base something off of emotion, because something that you said at the very beginning of the show that Mama Wilson always says, you can be there or you can be in there. When you hit rock bottom, you got two choices.
That's right.
You can stay or go up. Mama say it like this. Mama don't see negative. When I say Mama don't, look, she will not speak negative. She won't do it. Reason she won't do it is because when you speak it, you got to be careful, because that gives that enemy a foothold. And when he sticks his foot in that door, you got to be careful not to let it open. Now, I'll say this. I told you, your words, nobody can take away from you. And your writing, when you're writing the fiction about a real topic, they can't take that away from you because it comes from you. See, there weren't nobody else that was supposed to interview me except Ms. Wilson and yourself. And it's so funny, because now I look at this and I'm like, this is why it's now.
Right.
I didn't think we were going to talk about racism on the show, but we did. And that's what I'm saying. My show is not a scripted. We're going to talk about this, this, and this, and I'm going to read these 3 things, and there we are, and the show's over. My show starts with tell me about yourself. And it explodes from there. We talked about faith, hope, racism, hatred. We talked about love. We talked about strength. We talked about overcoming. We talked about timing. We talked about vision boards. We talked about writing. We talked about interviews. We talked about growing up. So those of you that are just coming in now, go back and watch the show and learn something about Miss Pam, about myself, and hopefully about yourself. Now I've got about 8 minutes left, and the end of my show, I have a segment that I call, it's called 30 questions, but we won't get through all of them. We'll probably get through like 3 or 4. I actually have 2 segments. One is called If I Could, and the other one, this is 32 questions. So I want to ask you just a couple of questions. What's your favorite animal?
Cats.
Okay. All right.
I love cats.
I love cats. If you had a superpower, any superpower in the world, what would it be?
Oh my gosh. I used to say invisibility. I like to sneak around and, know things, hear things, and people don't know that I'm there. Yeah, maybe that's still it.
If it was going to be your last meal on Earth, what would it be? Crab
cakes.
Talk to me, girl.
Child, they just too expensive right now, but I had some. I had some last week. I'm not gonna have any more for a while, but I love crab cakes. I remember there was a restaurant here. Terry Fraley is a friend of mine, and his crab cakes had no filler. And here, this little Portsmouth boy went up to. I wrote a story about him too. He went up to Maryland from Portsmouth and won a crab cake competition in Maryland. I tried his crab cake, girl. Child, I had a little tear.
Oh, well, look, you say no more. Say no more.
Yes.
See it come out, gotta eat it.
Yes.
What is your favorite sound?
Rain. I like rain. Before we came up here, I was sitting out on my patio and I had my earbuds in. I was listening to white noise of rain. It's very calming to me.
Mm-hmm. And last one, what is your favorite word?
My favorite word is love, actually. It is overused, it's misused, but I'll take it. I like that word.
All right, I've got 2 questions for you, and it's called, again, this I would.
Mm-hmm.
If I had more money than I knew what to do with right now, I would.
I would travel. I would travel more. I do some traveling now, and I know the thing to say is I would help and give to people. I probably will get that way eventually, but I'm gonna go somewhere.
If I could change one thing about myself right now, I would.
I would change my brain chemistry. And I don't mean to end it on a down note, but suffering from anxiety and depression, sometimes it's so up and so down.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I have to do a lot of work to pull it around. And if I could just not have to do that, that's what I would like to do.
Well, I want
to do it though.
And I like that too, because
I'm gonna do it.
You gotta leave that in there.
Mm-hmm.
You can't don't go away from it. So if you what would your final word to our listeners be? A message of maybe just inspiration, and if you want to share how you can be contacted or how to get to know, you can do that as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. My message of inspiration would be something that I'm only learning here in the last maybe 3 years. We have everything we need inside of us. And I'm not trying to sound like Oprah. Whether we have the ability to set the life and make the life, we have that ability.
That is awesome.
That's it. You can reach me here on Facebook, Pamela Nichols. You can reach me and read an excerpt from my books on my website, PamelaWrites.org. But let's get out there and live and love each other, because that's my word. And change our life, because we have the ability to do that.
Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the show, Pam. Just stay with me just a minute. Okay. If you guys would like to be a guest on the show, or would like to submit your story to be a guest on the show, you can do that at CarterDJ85@gmail.com. You can also find me on Instagram, on YouTube, on Twitter at MyCPDoesNotDefineMe. Twitter is @MinionSports. My blog, CarterDJ85 at Wixsite.com. My other 2 YouTubes, Chairmaster Games, and also Worth the Wait Cooking with DJ Carter. Got a new episode coming up on that. Just did some shrimp burgers last night, so that's going to be coming up.
I saw that.
Yep. So we're getting Worth the Wait revamped again and got everything going. I'm doing most of those episodes on Facebook now, but as I always say, this is D to the J with the roll away, and I want to thank Miss Pam for coming on, Miss Pamela Nichols, for coming on and being a guest on the show. She's awesome. We're definitely going to have her back for a part 2, because I want to get into her writing series and more of that, and just there's so much more. And the hour got away from us, and it was great. It was great.
I am so proud of you, DJ. I am. I knew it. I knew you were going to keep doing. I knew it was going to get bigger and bigger and better, and I'm so proud.
Well, as I always say, if you can't be good, be bad, but be good at it. This is D to the J with the roll away, and we'll see you next week for episode 94 of My CP Does Not Define Me. Take it easy, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
All right, everybody. That's going to do it for this week's episode of My CP Does Not Define Me. As always, you can catch us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on the Disability Global Broadcast and Facebook Live. If you haven't already checked out our YouTube channel, My CP Does Not Define Me, we post all of the show videos in our My CP playlist. I'm your host, D to the J with the roll away. And if you can't be good, be bad, but be good. at it. We'll see you next week.